Hello and welcome to Unleashed, the podcast about the people, the projects, and the culture of Big Red Dog. Every episode, we sit down with a team member to discuss what they're doing on a daily basis to chase their passions, make our clients successful, and make the engineering business cool. I'm Santiago Smith, your co-host, along with Kelly Dakin. Kelly, it's great to see you again.
Good to see you too, Sean. How are you?
Doing great.
Awesome.
Glad to get on with this episode. We've got a great episode in store. We're talking to a pretty special person, so I'm ready to get started. Let's go. Well, folks, welcome to another episode of Unleashed. We've spent the few first episodes talking to engineers, professional engineers in training, about what they do on a daily basis. And we wanted to talk about, honestly, what I think makes any engineering business successful is its production staff, its design staff. So we have the distinct pleasure of talking to one of our senior designers and principal and owner, one of our owners of the firm, Walker Santiago. Walker, it's good to see you. How are you doing today?
Hey, it's good to see you again, too. How you doing, Sean? Hey, Kelly.
What's going on? Thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I'm honored to be here.
It's great to have you. We had somebody from the San Antonio office last episode, and we're fortunate enough to have another San Antonio member this episode. Walker has been with the company for how long have you been? You've been here quite a while.
Since I would say the end of 2013, so December 9th of 2013. So 4 years. 4 years. And some change.
Okay. Yeah, which is easily almost half the age of the company since we're relatively young. We started in 2009, so that's pretty. It's actually long by BRD standards. So you're definitely one of the veterans around. I know you started originally at the Austin office. That's correct.
Yep, I was in the Austin office until probably about 8-9 months ago. And I moved down here to San Antonio, be closer to my family, and just, that was really the most important thing. We were very lucky. It's good. I like the folks out here. They've got a good culture in the office and overall in the city. And we were lucky to have an office here to continue working at Big Red Dog and transferring. Otherwise, I wouldn't be in San Antonio because there was no Big Red Dog office, and I wouldn't be here.
So, are you originally from San Antonio or from Texas?
No, but my family just all ended up here in San Antonio. We're all Army brats. My dad was in the Army 20 years, and we've moved everywhere. And my brother ended up in the Air Force and retired after 20 years. But there's a big Air Force community here. And my mom moved here. My sister moved here because she went to UTSA. So I'm the last one to move here.
So now you're all here. That's
now
awesome.
We're all here within 15 minutes of each other.
Nice. So you made it whole. And fortunately, there was an office there to keep you on the team while you're in San Antonio.
Right.
Cool. So could you go back over your background a little bit? So you originally came to Big Red Dog in 2013, like you said. What was going on in your career before that? You probably you were at a few other firms, and originally you chose drafting and design on a civil side of things at some point. Can you kind of go over where you from college or your secondary training and all throughout your experience up to Big Red Dog?
Sure. In 95, I went to ITT Tech to learn the drafting and design stuff. That was something I was always interested in since I was a little kid, just designing stuff out. And then from there, I worked at LCRA, and they did a lot of public civil engineering, mechanical work. And from there, I worked for another engineering firm for 17 years, and then moved to Big Red Dog.
So you had a kind of a more public side of experience, at least before you got to Big Red Dog, or was it kind of a good mix between private and public work?
It was all public at LCRA. They just did all their. They were in the point where they were redoing a lot of their hand drawn Mylar work into CAD, which was a lot of work. But they're a very organized group. And they were also working at that point in the 90s. There was a lot of telecommunication towers going up. It seems like everyone I've talked to in the 90s working on
cell towers.
That was the thing. Yeah. And that's what I worked on. I thought I would go into architecture, but I liked civil a lot more because it's very common sense, but it's also very technical and just looked really neat.
I remember you telling stories. I used to work with you a little bit in the Austin office, and I remember you telling stories about sort of the technology that was around CAD-wise in the 90s.
Right.
What version of CAD was around back then? Do you remember?
The cool new version of CAD was AutoCAD 12. There was no civil.
There's no years.
We weren't using Civil 3D at that point, and the other programs that were like Civil 3D, we weren't using at any of the companies I worked for. That was really kind of something new, as for me, as new as 2012 using Civil 3D. Before that was another program.
Right.
Wow. Yeah. So I can imagine that a bit has changed since you originally started drafting and designing.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff we were doing before was all hand-drawn, just hand-drawn proposed topology, no 3D modeling. You just had to imagine it from looking at, a printout, what the contours were actually doing.
In talking to a lot of people that have been around the industry for a while, I sort of get a sense that there are some folks that think that there's sort of a lost art with having to draw things by hand. What is your opinion on that? I know technology obviously helps us out a lot, but do you think that there's something to drawing something by hand? And if so, what are the advantages?
Yeah, I think there definitely is a little bit of a gap, or maybe a big gap sometimes between, illustrating is what we're doing. Like there's the art of like cartography and, the old school. If you ever looked at old school drawings from like the Eiffel Tower or dams from
it's like a
long time ago. Yeah, they even had some stuff that were in color, but they looked very real, even though they were technical drawings. They were like a work of art. And that was something to always kind of, you look up to and try to make your drawings look like that. Mm-hmm. There were things you could definitely do by hand quicker than just do it by computer. That was an advantage. So there's a little bit of a lost art between having everything so readily available in CAD and being able to just draw what you think concrete looks like.
Yeah.
But the time saved is, that's such a big thing now. You can redo a site so many times. They didn't used to do that back in the days,
Right.
It would take a lot longer.
It would take so long to make changes. Right?
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely with the implementation of modeling and information modeling in BIM, I think we've hit a point in our industry that, we really have to consider or really reconsider, redefine what it means to be a drafter, a designer, or an engineer. Honestly, it's becoming less and less distinguishable in many regards. Some of the required skills, responsibilities are starting to overlap. Even when I was a kid, my dad has been a structural drafter and designer my entire life, and he did some utility work early on too. And I remember him, hand drawing stuff back in the day and bringing home plans and just working on red lines. And it took so long to do what we can do. What he did in a day could now be done in an hour or less in many respects. Right. And it's just the natural evolution of our technology. I think it kind of, you keep some sense of the design fundamentals, but at the same time, the arbitrage of going from hand drawn to design is just undeniable. Like you can't reject that outright. And I think that it takes a very special professional to navigate that transition. I think a lot of folks perhaps were left in the last couple of decades, wanting to put their feet firmly in the hand drawn camp and resist the advent of technology. And a lot of folks, kind of seem to dive head first into it. And I know from at least my family's perspective, my dad, definitely started using Revit, and like that was something that changed dramatically that profession. And I know that with Civil 3D and our modeling stuff, which isn't quite as perhaps as complex, or at least in the functions that we use it as Revit, but it's becoming much more complex. The designers and drafters are having to effectively train themselves every year on new technology, new features, new aspects of the software. And it seems that, just from what I know from our conversations, that you have gone full on into it, and you've more than dived into it. You have done deep sea exploration of the modeling aspects of Civil 3D and everything. So I guess as one of our senior designers, you're responsible for investigating and researching a lot of these functions in software. What are some of the cool things that you found over the last couple of years that we've been able to implement in our design standards, our production standards?
I would say trying to model the site totally in Civil 3D with pipes and structures and your 3D surfaces, walls, curb, your ponds, all those things that were just drawn by hand before. Having it modeled out in 3D makes it a lot easier to see if there's errors, makes it a lot easier to see if you've got conflicts between pipes. There's things that we still haven't even fully done yet that, it's kind of experimental research, taking your 3D models that we have with pipes and surfaces and starting to, intermingle that with the Revit model for the buildings and InfraWorks, and then taking that another step and going out in the field and making it an augmented reality situation where you can stand out there on your project site with an iPad or with HoloLenses, and you don't have to imagine it anymore. You can see everything as it's going to be, as if you're walking through the building, or you could see through the ground and you can see pipes. You can see this now. Even before building the 3D model of your proposed site, you could go out there just to see where your conflicts are underground, like if you did a SUI, So there's some interesting directions I think that this industry is going to have to go towards, to making it even more profitable and making it to where you have less errors. And 3D modeling the site and working with the architects closely and with the survey information is going to be, more of the future. And, even mixing that with what you can get with drone imagery and drone, LiDAR, if you can get all that information up front now, then that design all can exist in virtual reality and match a lot more accurately once this site is totally done or through the design process. So
cool. So have you had a chance to see that augmented reality software and implementation in effect? Have you been able to go to a site with an iPad? I know that I think I've seen demonstrations of virtual reality where you're able to see it from your desk, whether through existing imagery or point clouds, things like that. But have you had an opportunity to see the AR implementation of all these models coming into effect?
I've played around with AR and VR since 2012, a long time ago. Just making SketchUp models or mixing that with some of our CAD information, our surfaces in 3D, and then exporting it to another program that would know where you were, with GPS. Looking through your screen, it would know exactly from your perspective. It would show you what that building would look like. It shows that building in the perspective.
Yeah.
So I've worked on that, have been able to implement that and using it just to play around with, just to know that this is the direction we're going. But I've worked on some projects on my own professionally, mixing drone imagery with CGI, augmented reality, really mixed use reality, where you're taking 3D views, 360 views of a drone and mixing that with a future site so that you can tell whether or not the view from one building is going to be blocked by another building. If you can't even see the lake, then what's the point? So yeah, I've worked around with that stuff because we're just going that direction. It's very exciting how much that 3D modeling is going to, the accuracy of your 3D modeling is going to come into effect on all future projects.
I think it's so interesting, with drone technology becoming more attainable for people and for companies, and everyone's modeling their stuff now anyway. Civil engineers are modeling things, architects and building engineers are already modeling their stuff. So it's really putting that all together early on. I think it's a real value add for potential owners and architects and things like that. So I think it's exciting what's going on and what's coming in the not too distant future. So
right,
exciting stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I think that, the ability for our client to determine which units of their multifamily building can see the landscaping or amenity pond or amenity features, can see downtown, can see whatever adjacent features they want us to the sites or the particular units to see, like that helps them with pricing, that builds into their pro forma. The architect can shift buildings or shift features as necessary. That stuff was unheard of. It's just you had to use imagination previously, right, and maybe just use some general estimation for that. But the ability for us to just drop those models in and then maybe take some 360 panoramic views with a drone, and maybe a couple weeks building all these things together, the client can show that to their investors. They can show that to the bank. They can show that to whatever public hearing they have to go to if they're requesting a variance or something. It's right, immediately impactful. They don't have to sit there and say, "Oh, it's going to be great," and everybody says that about their project. They can actually show it right there, right in front of them. These, especially on like a multifamily deal, they might be funding that with 100 investors, and they need to convince them, this is what the product is. This is what it's going to look. Right. It's going to look really slick because this entire building can see either downtown or the lake or whatever, right, it is. So it's impactful. It's technology that's already in play today. People kind of take advantage of social media, or kind of take for granted rather the implementation of VR, AR into like Snapchat or Instagram, and the younger generation's just already doing this. They're already putting themselves in an avatar, 3D avatar, playing with a fidget spinner or something in the middle of into the middle of their Snapchat. It seems like a game to a lot of professionals. It seems very, perhaps even childish, but that is money. That is something that is directly valuable to them if it's implemented in the right way. It seems really trivial otherwise, but it really isn't. It's it's something that our telephones with the new iPhones, especially, and a lot of the new Androids just have these graphics capabilities that were unheard of just even a few years ago. Right. So it's really cool that we have that capacity, potentially to put those assets in our clients' hands in a very real way, in a very accessible and intuitive way. Even not just we have to set up this huge VR machine or set up this computer or whatever. It's just you open up a web browser or something and you can get it accessed. So that's really cool that you've been playing with that a lot.
Yeah, I think that they'll definitely be moving that. On just the technical side for coordination between architects, engineers, MEPs, virtual reality, it just takes the guesswork out. Just looking at it in 2D or even on your own model in 3D, if you're not looking at what the other guys are doing in conjunction with what you're doing, how your site work affects the building work, then, you're guessing. But once all the models are combined together and you can just all stand in a space together virtually, you can see that, that column's in the way. And that's just as simple instead of coordinating back and forth on 2D drawings.
Yeah. It's not too far away where different design professionals can do a virtual site walk and walk through a building and a site together before it's even permitted or before it's even financed. It's not too far away, man.
Our industry is honestly lagging behind. Like naval architecture industry has been using this virtual reality to create their entire 3D models of the future cruise liners for maybe the last almost 10 years. That way they can quickly design and make changes on the fly and coordinate with all their other, groups, with their MEPs, with their architecture, with their structural guys, and figure out how they can make more space out of what they've got. That's why that industry has been taking off. And our industry is going to take off soon enough when they really start to implement, the virtual reality, augmented reality solutions that other guys have already been doing for 10 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think modeling is something that, especially in the civil side of things, in public infrastructure, we're just simply not invested in enough as it should be, especially on smaller cities and jurisdictions. But even in the big cities, there is such a wealth of information that can be provided to public infrastructure projects, even private developments, that we could be delivering a model much like a BIM model, like a structural BIM model, a building information management model, to our client, to the city, or to whoever it is, and that's something that they could plug into their GIS. They can plug into their overall infrastructure modeling software,
right,
and immediately see conflicts. They don't even need to give, paper plans to their inspectors or to their utility locators. They just go out there with a phone and use AR to look at, okay, I point my phone down and now I see where the pipeline is, where the sanitary line is. I know there should be a manhole here, but it's not. Okay, so why isn't it not there? That's just so powerful that it's already here. It's already the capacity is already here. It just seems crazy to me that the cities aren't investing even further into it.
Right. I think, some cities have been, some cities around Texas, counties even, have been investing more in combining, drone work to get to manage their assets, to start doing, the way aerials have been used for counties for a long time, have been used to help create their parcels. Now with drones, they can go out and have an updated aerial much quicker, much cheaper. And I mean, they can even, another thing that drones can do is they have this future technology that, it's being implemented now, called change detection, which allows you to fly the drone at specific times during the month. Maybe it's every couple weeks or every week. And there's technology that will detect the change in future, current construction sites. If one developer has built more buildings of a certain type and a certain roof, this technology will allow the end user to figure out how many new buildings have been built. So there's counties out there right now that are using this technology, change detection, with the drone imagery and other features that drones do, like you can do LiDAR, you can do FLIR cameras. There's companies that use FLIR cameras to figure out, where there's leaks in roofs without poking holes in your roof. But I think the exciting thing is there's people already out there implementing things to be all 3D. And I think it's exciting that at some point there will be infrastructure models for cities that are entirely 3D, that show all of their existing pipelines, all of the existing data and fiber optic. And that's when they can share that with people who are, the other engineers who are starting to propose new designs. That's going to be a really exciting time for everyone. That's the other technology they use for drones now is, what's it called? They can detect things underground. Like right now they've been doing it just with like rollers, but they've actually got ground penetrating radar they can use for drones. That's really where it's going to come in handy for the municipal agencies to start mapping their pipelines. They can have a drone fly out there for 20 minutes and they could probably map out 50 acres of area or right of way. Right. And get all that stuff in there really
instead
quick.
Of relying on like an 80-year-old drawing that who knows how accurate it is. Yeah.
I had a project where I completely took something that it was a city that had only hand drawings of all their infrastructure, water and wastewater, for maybe 50, 60 years. Their base files were actually, ripped, burned, old, like maps from Pirates of the Caribbean. I had to like make sense of that and create like, GIS 2D lines of what was there. But it would have been much more exciting if it had a 3D element to it. Then they would actually have it to use for some of that stuff we're talking about to figure out conflicts with proposed utilities and site designs.
Yeah. Rather than Captain Jack Sparrow PE.
Exactly.
But I mean, that's important. I think that, once Elon Musk starts tunneling, boring holes across the country, he's going to need those models, I think, at some point. Maybe we could start it once we get to Mars. We will start anew and do 3D models exclusively once we get up there.
I think he says in 2 years, right? He's going to be starting to travel to Mars. Something very soon.
Who knows? Who knows?
Cool. We got a satellite office, some BRD up there, maybe?
BRD Mars?
Literally a satellite office.
Yeah, pardon the pun, yeah. We'll be the first land development consultant on Mars.
An orbital office.
Yeah.
Speaking of working in different offices, Walker, I think you have a very unique perspective on the company because, like we talked about earlier, you started in the Austin office. Mm-hmm. Now you're here in San Antonio. That's something that we talk about a lot in this company is the internal mobility. We've had people move from San Antonio to Austin. A couple of you guys moved from Austin to San Antonio.
Houston guys, yeah. Austin, San Antonio, Houston, all mixing up.
What is the culture like here in the San Antonio office, and how is it different than some of our other offices?
Well, I couldn't say about Houston and Dallas, because I've visited, but I never stayed long enough to see. Although they, every office seems to have attracted the same like-minded, very entrepreneurial, go-getter, person who just wants to get it done and wants to work on cool stuff. And San Antonio and Austin, I could definitely say it's the same thing. It's attracted the same kind of young or very, very out of the box thinking, but hardworking guys and girls. And the culture here in San Antonio, the similarities of that is really, it's all the same. I would say the San Antonio culture, they like to have fun too, and they like to laugh and joke, but hardworking guys here, just like they're hardworking in Austin. Different cultures. San Antonio is just a different city than Austin. Mm-hmm. And they have different things going on here, but I would say the culture is exactly the same, just because we've attracted the same kind of people based on the projects, the clients, and the attitude we have towards the people that work at the company. We just bring in the same kind of folks, So it's a good culture. It's a fun, festive, jokey. Yep. I mean, the last couple of weeks or month, I don't know why we got stuck on doing like these 1920 gangster talking voices every once in a while. Like, we're working on a grading plan, It's just very Three Stooges-esque, Yeah. So everyone works hard, but we like to play hard too, But we definitely like to work hard and have fun while we do it. So definitely this very similar to the Austin culture.
Similar but different. It's what you were saying about the type of people that we attract. I think that's awesome to hear because that's at the end of the day we got to get the work done. But people have to have fun,
right?
During their day,
right?
Or else the work product's going to suck.
I mean, I see all my coworkers and talk to them. I mean, it's not sad to say, it's just the way it is. I see these guys more than I see my family because my family sleeps through the whole night. I get home from work and I've got my family for 2-3 hours and then they go to sleep. I go to work. I see these guys for 9 hours, 10 hours. And you definitely have a work family and then you have your family. And it's definitely important to have people you have great interactions with on a daily basis. It helps you get up in the morning and look forward to going to work. And that's one thing I've enjoyed about Big Red Dog. We don't have the company politics. People enjoy coming to work, look forward to it. And I enjoy working with people who think the same or the entrepreneurial aspect. People are just always coming up with ideas, make things better. People are just looking towards the future. And I'm an old guy. I feel like I'm an old guy. I'm 40 something. But, it's very refreshing. You come to work and no one's jaded. Everyone's very excited about where they're going, and they have somewhere they're going. They have hope here.
There's opportunity. There's a lot of cool projects, and
that's why I'm here. I mean, I came here because I had a job and I was doing it a long time, but I'd be honest, I lost it's lost its excitement, like I had to make it exciting because I would go in and research drones and I'd research augmented reality and virtual reality. So I was really trying to move towards the future of where we're going. And while I was at my other company, Big Red Dog started just popping up all the time on LinkedIn. And I know Chance, who's a partner at Big Red Dog. I worked with him about 10 years at another company, and I knew how good he was. And I respect that very much. I was like, any company Chance is working at is definitely somewhere I'd definitely be interested in.
So did you reach out to him? And
he reached out to me. But I wouldn't say I was stalking Big Red Dog, but I would definitely would read anything that came out that had any Big Red Dog project connection. And I was just excited for Big Red Dog. I was like, wow, they're working on Waller Creek projects. It's like, that's a dream project. It's like, I've always wanted to work on a project like that. Or, wow, they're working on, some of these really cool, neat projects downtown. And I wasn't currently working on anything like that exciting. And I wanted to get more involved with things like that. So to be able to come to Big Red Dog after talking to Chance and Ricky and meeting the other partners, I was just very excited. It's like, yeah, it's time to make a change. This is where I want to be. I see a future there. I'm excited again. I'm excited about them knowing about the technology and them working on these cool projects and actually getting to work on that dream project. I got to work on Waller Creek, and I'm still working on it when it comes up. And there's still going to be tons of work to do on the Waller Creek project. So that's what brought me to Big Red Dog, is those exciting projects, the way we just market ourselves, and we look like we're having so much fun here, and that's because we are having so much fun working on neat stuff like that. That's not something everyone gets to work on. Everyone just might be working on some boring stuff, but we've got some really incredible projects that we're involved in, not just in Austin, but in San Antonio. I mean, I don't know if I could talk about one of the projects. I think it's confidential.
Yeah.
But there's a project that I've been helping out here. If that project happens, it's going to be so exciting to see it develop. It's probably be one of the biggest projects I've worked on or helped work on in my whole career.
I don't think it's fully out there yet, but there are several big, huge,
I don't even know if you know which project I'm talking about.
Game-changing projects.
There's like
You'd be
at
surprised.
least a couple big ones I can't even talk about.
I know. We'll have you on when that one's out in the public. We'll have you back on, and we can talk about that.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, talk about big projects. One of the big projects I'm still working on, but we're close to being done with most of it, is that Belterra project. I wrote a blog post for it maybe a month ago. That was one of those exciting type projects that I want to be on that team for, and very excited to have worked on it and designed it and see it constructed. Has been really awesome. That's the stuff that, people need to know, that if they come to Big Red Dog, they're going to be working on really exciting projects.
That's the difference. You hit on, I think, three major things that set us apart from our competition. Is we have the right people that are excited to be here.
Right.
We work on cool projects, and we work for good clients.
Right.
That are partners throughout the process, and they really make a huge difference. Like you were saying about the other firm that you were working for, that wasn't maybe necessarily you weren't working on. Projects that were very exciting. You weren't really motivated to kind of advance in your career. So
Yeah, and I think a really big thing about it is it's just the culture that we attract clients like that. We attract other team members like that. I always like the phrase that rock stars know rock stars, or rock stars attract rock stars. When we have people on our team that are outgoing, entrepreneurial, really love to work on exciting things, we're going to attract those sort of people, we're going to attract those sort of clients, and attract those sort of projects, and it just feeds a positive feedback loop. It's just this flywheel of an ongoing process. And I think that's really a cool aspect that we have going on for us at the company. And I think that, it's pretty unique for you specifically because you chose to put your money on the line and invest in this company and our shareholder and partner with Big Red Dog. And that's, in my opinion, really unique to our firm. Typically in most engineering professional services firm, you have to be in a corner office, have worked with the company 15, 20 years, maybe about to retire in 10, you've got gray hair, and then all of a sudden, by the way, you want to become a partner, you want to become a shareholder. And at that point, it's like, well, I'm already almost done with my career. Why didn't you invite me 10 years ago when it really mattered, when you needed my skin in the game, And I think for our firm, we're really unique in this sense that employee ownership is a fundamental pillar. We can attract and open that invitation to anybody effectively, so it's in so much as they can defend or demonstrate rather that they're contributing to the team, contributing to the bottom line outside of their typical job description. And obviously you demonstrated that and were invited to come along. So I think having a senior designer, on the shareholders team is significant. It's not just a singular view. You have people from every point of the team, all players, contributing to the strategy, the direction of this ship going forward. So what kind of experience have you had with that? I mean, what is something that, what drew you to want to become a principal and become a shareholder?
Well, that's one of the things that drew me to Big Red Dog, knowing that, my friend Chance was a shareholder and he was, a really, really probably one of the best CAD guys, not just as in a guy who's really good at CAD, but the drawings he creates are incredible. Like you see them like, wow, that's an incredible set of plans. To know that, he is highly respected by the other partners is awesome, because it tells me that these guys respect talent. It doesn't have to be like, oh, you went to college for 20 years and you got a PhD, or you went to a certain college. It's, it's based on the merit of really completing projects and showing everyone that you can do it, and you've been really awesome and really want to be more effective and give more than just take. So it attracted me to Big Red Dog, and the experiences I've had as a partner have been pretty awesome too. And I've got to see how the inner workings of the company go, and I've really liked knowing that I could be a partner. It's great. Not everyone might want to be a partner. But yeah, it definitely makes you step up more and want to get things done. And definitely makes you want to be a mentor to others and push others to dream big and go big or go home. But really, really has been a great experience as a partner here at Big Red Dog. Awesome.
No, that's exciting. I think that, fuels a lot of ambition for everybody that's a part of the team. Kind of transitioning to our last question. You mentioned earlier, probably on a more personal note, you were coming from an Army brat. You were an Army brat yourself, and I come from a military family. Myself being in the military, I can understand the culture of families growing up in that atmosphere. Could you go over some of your personal life? What was some of the cool aspects of jumping around in a military family?
Oh, when I was a kid, I don't think I took it for granted. Honestly, I knew we were traveling everywhere, and it was exciting to see different places in the world. I was born in Puerto Rico. That's where my parents are from. And then we've moved around. We've moved to Germany several times. We lived in Texas several times, lived in California. We lived in Panama, which is really awesome. I have a lot of childhood friends that we just keep up with now. That's one thing about, I think, being Army brat. You're always moving all the time. You had to create new friends all the time. It's been good to be able to still stay connected with all those friends. That's that culture of being in the military. I think doesn't matter what you look like, people are people, and everyone's the same. And that has been a great thing to be able to harness even now, even though I don't move around anymore as much, but it's given me a good perspective on, how to live every day. You just don't take it for granted that you're just in a cool place. Just go experience it, So that's I guess the Army brat perspective. It's been really great to see the world. And then, we've settled somewhere now, but still go travel every once in a while.
You got any trips coming up?
We do have a trip. Yeah. My wife, she earned a trip to the Mediterranean. We're going to take this massive cruise liner. That's why I was talking about the naval architecture. I just geeked out on this massive ship they just built. It's the largest cruise liner in the world to this point. It's Symphony of the Seas. And we're going to be traveling to Barcelona and then taking the ship to Italy, France. And it's going to be exciting, just to see all that stuff. Again, I haven't been to Europe since I was 10, so it's been a long time. But that's a trip we are making this summer, actually.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah, thanks to my wife for that. Shout out.
Yeah,
shout out to the wife.
I'm jealous, definitely, and I think that's cool. You touched on it, being in the military and being raised in that environment. You find yourself very easily making friends. You're comfortable wherever you are virtually. You don't have to be dependent on one city or one location. Like you find yourself comfortable, like as a global person, effectively. So it's cool that you got that experience growing up, and that definitely pays dividends in terms of communication and just relationship building. So that's cool. Well, Walker, I think we've probably gone a little long on this one. I think we're probably hitting one of our longer episodes, but there's a lot of great information here. You went over a ton of really cool stuff about modeling, about drone technology, and honestly, I think our listeners are going to be interested in that. Hopefully, they'll do some research on their own and figure out ways to implement it on their own work and production. But I think we'll definitely have you on again in the future, talk about those big projects, any cool new technologies as well that you find yourself researching in the next few months, and go over that some more. But really appreciate it, Walker. Thanks for coming by and talking to us.
Well, thank you, Sean. Thank you, Kelly. It's been an honor being here. And I look forward to listening to myself on the podcast.
Yeah, definitely. Good. Unique experience for sure.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, man. High five.
Thank you, Kelly. Virtual high five, Sean.
There we go.
I'll add the special effect.
Yeah, there we go. Well, folks, that does it for another episode of Unleashed. As always, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you consume your podcasts, whatever your podcast app flavor of choice is. If you take a moment to leave us a rating and a review within whatever storefront you find our episode, we'd really appreciate it. That would do us a huge favor.
And I'm going to go ahead and plug our Instagram account. We were doing a little bit of some stories during the recording of this podcast. So check us out on Instagram. It's BRD_ENG. Say hello, send us a DM, tag us, check us out.
Definitely. And always, you can find our show notes at bigreddog.com/podcast. That does it for this episode. Take care for now.